Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Walking Dead World Beyond series finale. A great series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I do like that. I mean, grand total, we find out this entire series is taking place over the course of 2 months, because we rewind to Monument Day when our quartet left, you know, the campus colony, and it's so interesting, like, to see them at the beginning of their journey, and just to see in just how in 2 months how much they've changed, how much they've grown to be where we are today. You know, hard cutting to them, like opening that door to, like, right, let's see what's on. You know, they could back out, but it's like, no, once we go, there is no going back. They didn't know that at the time, that once they left home, there'd be no going back home. Like, we may never see home again, and they won't. But they ventured out either way, all for their own reasons for being there. But the hard cut to where we are now, them going there on foot, finding their way, trying to make it to where Huck and Dennis are, who are making plans of their own, because they plan to eventually go to the CR themselves, because they need to expose all of this. They need to make someone in the CR know what the CRM has been up to. And, you know, it's like, right, you know, and how do we make anyone there believe us? Because even we do make it there, even somehow by some miracle, there's no guarantee anyone there is going to listen to us or believe all of this. So, you know, but they basically make a statement of, we take what, basically take what we can get and make the most of whatever's left, you know? That's kind of like the messaging they have between each other. But luckily the others show up. Silas ended up getting the medicine. Obviously antibiotics that Dennis needs. And they got the explosives ready. And obviously they need to meet up with the others, because Huck is like, just leave it to us. They deal with the gas and everything. And looks to Hope, and she's like, I'm proud. It may not mean as much, but I am proud of you, you know? And I think that's sweet, especially for Hope, too, because it's like, you know, it's like, right, they know about you. It's like, no, but me and Dennis will be okay. It's just because Huck, despite everything, Huck was, like, her friend. She was the person that Hope, like, you know, relied on and confided in. She looked at her as almost like a friend, a mentor, and I think like another sister, you know? But when the time came, Silas was like, no, I'm going to stay with them, which, you know, because obviously after everything, you know, losing Percy and everything, because even Iris was kind of having a hard time moving forward after losing Percy. But I thought it was interesting, the line from Silas where he was like, he was lost, but then he found you. You know, it's like, because basically it's like, what you did for him, you've done you've done that for all of us. Like, you kind of led us here. Like, we're all who we are now because of you, because of your leadership. You've gotten us this far. So, you know, and even Elton was like, no, this isn't goodbye. You know, we'll see each other again. We found each other twice before. We'll do it again, you know? So I think it's like a really heartfelt goodbye. But Huck sends Dennis and Silas off to go get, like, she needs a trigger for the explosive, and she's like, no, I'll just hide if the CRM shows up. And I'm like, it's a little ominous, because we know the CRM is on their way, because your girl Jadis is not backing down. She knows, like, what they're up to, and she makes her way there. And while Silas and Dennis are getting all the supplies they need, Huck goes toe-to-toe, and we had that conversation. She's like, right, you've always been this person. You've always been this duplicitous person, like, trying to, like, having your own end result. It's like, I mean, because she comes at it from the perspective, like, you don't know what it's like to have a place of your own, a place that you built, and having it taken away. It's like, you've grown up in this. Like, you've always had a place to call your home. You've never had to make one of your own and to have that taken away. And she's like, right, how you got into the CRM was you traded someone else's life in. And it's like, right. And Jadis is like, I had an A, but I told them I had a B because I didn't want him to end up in your mom's labs. She's like, I at least owed him that. But also she makes, because obviously it's like, you've had the blood of like 100,000 people on your hand. It's like, if I'm a murderer, that makes you one too. Because, like, how do you think we were able to wipe them out with one chemical strike Jennifer, like all that time in Omaha, like your reconnaissance gave us exactly what we need, the parks and everything. Like we knew exactly where to strike because of you. So, and I was just kind of like, oh man, this battle could go either way. I'm like, I was like, because I honestly thought, well, spoilers, well, jumping ahead, but like Jadis not dying was a big surprise to me. I was like almost wondering if they would do, but I guess they are setting her up to be kind of like a major villain. Because I think she is from the comics, if I remember correctly. I think she is a comic character. I just don't know if she's like a big baddie, like the governor or Negan. Or even Alpha. Like I don't know if she's of that same ilk, because there's certain, like the last big bads of the comics that I was aware of were the Whisperers. I knew about them a little bit before they actually popped up in the show, because I know those were villains that people were really excited to get to in the show, I think, if I remember correctly. But I had heard about the Whisperers beforehand, but like they're the last big bads in the comics that I'm aware of, and I don't know where they fall in the grand scheme of things, of like where that was storyline wise. Once again, the comic is done, so I don't know if that's like in the middle, whether that's about 2/3 through the story, whatever the case may be, right? Because I know later stuff in the comic, there's some time skipping involved. Aside from all of that, Jadis got in that sneaky strike against Jennifer, and she was asking Jennifer, like, right, do you want me to finish you, or do you want to die here alone? And she's like, right. My mom said that gold watch of my dad's, she's like, it brought us back together, but tell her this time it's not going to. It's going to bring me and my dad back together. And the watch is going, and it's like, right, how much time do I have? And Jennifer just kind of laughs, and Jadis takes off, and luckily to get out at a time, but like she bleeds out on the floor, because probably like where Jadis punctured her, there was no surviving. A part of me was almost like, please tell me you're bluffing or something, but she's not. And it's like, damn, dude. I had a feeling Huck was going to die. I figured she wasn't going to survive, but especially because I think for Huck, it's like, if I can die doing this, it's fine, you know? It's like, I've got to make up for all the bad that I've done, you know? Because, she tried her best to help with the whole Percy situation, and obviously he died, but it's like, right, I've done a lot of evil, I've got to repay. So in her own way, this was her, giving back, trying to do the right thing at the very end. I mean, she's been doing the right thing for a while now, but I think in this moment, it's like, right, like, being able to be with my dad when this is all over, but also, he's doing the right thing in general. And obviously Dennis is the most devastating thing, because he's like, right, because Silas is like, right, we could go back, maybe she got up. He's like, no, that's why she sent us here, so we wouldn't be in the blast radius. He knows what this is. He's like, right, and we both knew like how this was going to play out. She knew I wasn't going to make it because of this wound, and he's like, don't say that, Dennis, like we could patch you up and everything's okay. Because his main reason for sticking around is like he wanted to help his friends, because that was a moment, something he had talked about. Like the fact is, he was saying goodbye to Hope, Elton, and Iris. He's like, if it wasn't for you guys, he's like, I never had friends to ever say goodbye to, and now look where I am. I have friends that I'm actually saying goodbye to. But Dennis, when eventually the CRM catches up to him, Dennis is like, you have to kill me. And Silas is like, no, we can fight them off. He's like, no, they're too armed. You have to make it look like I forced you. You have to kill me. You have to sell the story. Because he's like, no, we can make it to the CR that tells you. He's like, I'm not going to make it. I never was. This is going to be up to you, Pulaski. I know, like, regardless of it, he's like, you have to do this, because I'm going to die one way or another. But this way you can make sure that you live, earn their trust. And he's like, I'm going to find them someone important, and I'm going to tell them the truth about all of this, what the CRM was up to. And I love that Dennis was like, right, don't you dare carry, like, do it, but don't you dare carry this, And he pulls the trigger on Dennis. And I like to believe on some level, it's because of course it's like, making plans. Percy made his plans with Iris, and those were cut short, but at least on some level you want to think of some silver lining of like, maybe Huck and, Dennis are together with her and her dad, so that's all you can hope for. But when he gets brought in, Silas does talk to Jadis, and she sees through everything, but she's like, no, it's okay. You did this because Dennis told you to, but the fact is that you actually pulled the trigger. She's like, that impresses me, because she actually sees a lot in Silas. She's like, I think she sees a lot of herself in Silas, and it's like, right. She's like, I can't wait for you to become who, like, I see you to be, which almost seems like, ooh, well, because the thing is, I'm wondering, could they potentially be setting up Silas almost in a somewhat Carl situation. The reason why I'm saying that is because I remember reading this years ago. Once again, I don't have the full context of it because I've never read the comics, but they were hinting at potentially, like there was something I was reading that was hinting at maybe Carl becoming like the leader of like a new version, like almost borderlining the Whisperers himself, that they were almost making it sound like Carl was being set up to be a bad guy. Once again, I don't know what, I mean, especially when you think about the fact is that Negan took an interest in him and maybe that was kind of playing into that, but I think it was supposed to be like, oh, Carl was going to be like, he was going to lead a group that was going to be almost like, I guess, not that they operated like the Whisperers, but they would be just as bad as the Whisperers or something of that nature. Once again, I'm talking out of my ass. Like I remember catching a glimpse of this years ago, and I just don't remember the context under it. But that's why I'm almost wondering with like Silas amongst the CRM, it's like, right, Huck and Dennis are gone now. You have Silas kind of filling that role. And I think it's almost typical in certain regards because of what Huck did to Silas, and now, and also that she was the one that basically trained, that Huck's the one that trained Jadis, and now Jadis is taking Silas under his wing. Like, I think that's so fascinating how that all plays out. So that's why I'm curious to see what happens. And then we finally get to see Elizabeth. So I guess she's been back in the CR the entire time. And so obviously it's like, right, I'm sorry, I wanted your daughter to be brought back alive, but it's like, no, of course she wasn't going to let it happen. She's like, I read the report. And so, and it's interesting because I think Elizabeth has lost perspective on this thing. Like, she was all about this mission because, like, she even says this line I thought was so good of, like, she's like, I fancied myself the ancestor of people that would feel indebted to me. She thought, like, years from now, it's like some Thanos thing of like, oh, I wiped out half the universe. Those remaining, they're going to thank me for what I did. It's borderline that. No, it's not even borderline that. It's exactly that. She thought she'd be thanked and indebted, but it's like, how do we know it's even going to work out? What's the point? Because it's all about the future, and her future was supposed to exist with her daughter and her daughter's children and so on and so forth. And it's like, yeah, the buck stops with her. She lost her husband. She lost her daughter. All she has is herself. So, like, what am I even fighting for? Like, for something like her belief in it doesn't mean anything. I mean, for the fact is that my daughter was willing to turn against it. Like, it's like because she thought like she could justify all the terrible things she's done. She's like, the monstrous things I've done has all been in the service of this greater good we're going to do. But like, how do we know it's going to work out? We don't. She's all faith. But Jadis, it's hard to say. Like, Jadis says like, oh, we are the last light in the world. But for her, it's also like, you believe in it, but also it's like, no, I love what I've got. Like, the fact of the matter is, I'm enjoying my power and my positions, because she's like, oh, the worse you look, ooh, the better I look, because it's like, you're the one that called me in to clean up your mess. And when time came, like, you should have nipped this in the bud. You gave Indira the opportunity that led to the perimeter being able to do what they did. The Bennetts, you didn't cut that off at the pass. In fact, you actually welcomed them in with open arms. So that's kind of on you. Because now that the scientists know what they're doing, the scientists are going to continue their work, but all that research is going to be with them. They're not going to, like, even when we track them down, they're never going to work with us. If anything, those scientists will most likely, if they ever get captured, they would, like, even if the CRM in particular ever found them, they'd probably kill themselves just to make sure and destroy their research, or at the very least make sure the others escape with it, just so that the CRM never gets it. But I love that, like, you know, Jada sees through it all, being like, oh, like, you brought me in the last second. Like, everything was at your doorstep, and you just came, like, when things started getting tough, you just ran away. You probably called me in for the audit and stuff like that just so I could take the fall. But it's like, nope, I'm actually coming out smelling like roses. You're the one smelling like dung right now, Elizabeth. So she's like, oh, you won't get away with this. You won't win. She's like, I've already won. But I'm like, nah, I think in the grand scheme of things, karma is going to come bite. But I like what they did with Jada. It's like, at the beginning, you're like, Jadis is manipulative, she's backstabby, and now, like, well, you know, that's always been who, because even Elizabeth was like, and there it is. It's like her power and position. She's like, I have this power, I have the Republic, ooh, I'm going to be serving up. You know, like, I'm rising higher and higher, like, to get to where I am. Because she's like, yeah, it's about, you know, weak people getting strong, and also waiting for the strong to get weak. In this particular moment, she waited until Elizabeth was weak, and now she's struck, and now she's probably going to be taking Elizabeth's position because it's like, oh, wait till Bill hears about this. It's like, who do you think signed off on it? So I'm curious about, we won't ever get context for it, but I'm curious, like, what Mason's going to say when he actually gets back around his dad. Like, the fact is, we need to get introduced to Bill. I mean, we heard his name, but, like, once again, I think that'll probably maybe be a Walking Dead movie thing, but I think that's kind of interesting, the way they've set that up. But other than all of that, like, I'm kind of like rewinding quite a bit. We had Elton, Hope, and Iris trying to make their way from the blast. Luckily, Indira and Asha show up to help them out. But just as they were about to get him inside, Elton sacrificed himself for Hope. And I was like, man, everybody getting their arm bitten today, ain't they? But luckily they were able to amputate Elton's arm, but the question is, like, was he going to be okay? And even Leo was like, right, if we have to, we should keep someone nearby. I was just like, man, the timing is like, we just got it with Alicia, now we got it with Elton. Once again, it's just like, I guess everyone in that universe kind of gets that at some point, because if you didn't listen to my review of this week's Fear the Walking Dead, I also referenced, I believe, and once again, I could be wrong, I believe Rick is under those very same circumstances in the comics. Like I said, I said it during my Fear the Walking Dead review, but I believe so. I heard someone reference that about Rick in the comics years ago, even saying that maybe both of his arms or hands are gone, kind of like a common, like the Aaron type of situation. I think it's something of that nature, but regardless, I just thought the timing was interesting. Like, Elton got it, and so did Alicia. But other than that, like, you had Felix roll up to help out Leo, and that boy Newton showing up, and Felix took that opportunity because that bastard's so smug. He's like, oh, no one wanted you, even Will. I wonder, did he know that Will was alive? I don't know if he knows it. I don't know whether he's still under the impression Will was dead or not, but it's like, oh, Will came here to get away from you. Oh, your own parents didn't want you. And he's like, okay. And Felix didn't let that faze him. He opened up the gate. He's like, all right, you want to fight? And he, like, let him fight the walkers. I'm sure it was also to wear him down, but I'm loving Felix pulling out those moves. I'm like, yeah, get him. It's like, yo, that boy is smooth from, like, going to fighting him to killing a walker. I love that at one point he stabbed one walker, grabbed another one, stabbed it onto the other end, and like he dual sabered this, and I was like, double-sided sabered it, but I was like, man, look at this boy go, getting into work, and I'm like, yeah, he's like, oh, you made a promise to kill me, like, don't disappoint me, and then he proceeds to disembowel you smug bastard. I'm like, yeah, but luckily the scientists and everyone are okay, so. But with the underground place, Elton, like I said, is in his condition. But not only did he save Hope's life, which I think that kind of brings that all full circle considering their complicated history, there's also the circumstances of he also brought the medicine that Indira needed to survive. So it won't last forever, but hopefully it'll be enough to last a while to keep her okay. But now it becomes a situation of they have to divide and conquer. Like, sadly, the entire group doesn't get to stay together. It's like, no, we have to go our separate ways. Because Hope's got to stay with her dad. Because, like, this is a perfect place. The CRM doesn't know about it. They need to have a place that's like a lab that's secured that they can continue their work, for years to come. But also, Iris knows that she needs to go off and help with the telling the Portland about what's really going on, And everyone, kind of saying their goodbyes. That, because obviously, like, Hope's like, I thought we were going to do this together. But Iris is like, no, we will kind of, like, save the world. But we might not be around each other, but we will still be kind of doing it together, That was kind of where Hope had left. It's so interesting because, like, Hope had to be the one to walk away at the end of season 1. And now Iris has to be the one, being so brave and being so bold, She made the bold choices then, but she was kind of flung a little on Hope's coattails, but it's like, right, each one of them has changed. Like, once again, they almost kind of got the inverse of each other because Iris got a lot of that boldness from Hope, and Hope kind of took a lot of those, like, taking a step back a little bit, like, like Iris would. So they're making their choices to do this, and Elton luckily wakes up, and obviously interesting timing too, because I watched something else that ended with a character kind of ending things in the form of a book, because Elton had been writing a book the entire time, and we get everything from his perspective. And I think it's a beautiful thing at the end. I'd like it coming full circle of like, right, we were supposed to be the endlings, you know, maybe this isn't the end, maybe this isn't the beginning, maybe it just is, you know, that we don't know how much time we have left. Maybe it's just 1 year, maybe 2 year, maybe forever, but maybe all we have is right now. And I love that talk about like, you know, the fact is, saying that this is like the beginning is being disrespectful to everything that came before. And there's a picture that Hope had developed, and it's a picture of the four, Iris, Hope, Elton, Silas, Felix, and Huck. It's like, right, for those, you know, basically we don't want this to be considered a beginning because we don't want to forget those that came before us, you know? So, but this isn't quite the end either, you know, but it is just now. And he talked about the whole conversation about like how everything has taken, you know, certain like things ended up in places that you would have never thought they would, like Silas being a soldier with the CRM. But, you know, will he get so wrapped up in it that he loses his way? Or is like, nah, I'm all about my mission. I'm never going to lose sight of it. I know why I came to this. You know, I'm going to do what's best for my friends. I'm going to do my best to bring the CRM down, make them pay for all the deaths that they've caused, you know? And we have like Felix and Will together. With the dog, we even have Leo, Hope, and the other scientists working on things. But we have Asha, Elton, and Hope with Indira's people heading to Portland. So, but I love that line of like basically every little thing we ever do, like our experiences, like every little thing adds up, and that's a life, you know. And once again, like that thing at the end of Elton saying the line of like, "Let's go find out who we are." And that was a point, I believe it was Iris that was saying, like, this journey didn't show us who we are. It showed us who we've always been. We just didn't know it, who we were deep down inside. So it leaves things like it's not conclusive. It's not resolved because it still exists out there in the greater The Walking Dead universe. But we do have a surprising ending. I was like, are we going to have a special appearance? I was thinking Rick. I did not expect us to see Noah Emmerich's character. To anyone that doesn't remember, he played this CDC scientist when Rick and them rode up in the CDC near the end of season 1. Like, he stayed behind, along with that other lady who just gave up, who just wanted it to end. Like, she stayed behind when they blew up the CDC at the end. But I'm like, yo! That's wow, we went full circle with that. But there's a lady uploading some files and copying some stuff, and she's locking it away, and this guy rolls up on her, and he's asking, like, where's the Primrose team? And she's like, oh, I was part of the Violet team. She was, like, hoping that they would be here. References Ohio. She's like, she figures they were there, and like, was hoping of hope that they'd be here. So it seemed like we were getting implications because he was like, oh, I'm going to do this because you guys are responsible for what happened and you made it worse. And you're like, so I wonder, did they initially like spread the dead and then making it so that everyone's naturally infected so that when anyone dies of anything, they automatically come back? I wonder, is that the element of it, what that was referencing? But once again, to my understanding, that was never really covered in the comics. That was never the purpose of what caused all this. But it seemed like they were setting up like, oh no, like we know who's directly behind it. It's a group of people that were behind it and led to all. It seemed like that's what that ending was indicating. But I'm not fully sure. Like that felt like I said, that seems like if it's going to pop up anywhere, it seems like it would pop up a movie. Because I talked about it before in other places, references, but like, to my knowledge, and I think there's more stuff that has come out recently about the Walking Dead universe, but to my knowledge, the only spin-offs we were aware of are like the Carol and Daryl one, plus I remember talks about there being an anthology as well. Now, whether any of this is going to tie back into the main overarching, like just the OG Walking Dead show, when when season 11 returns for part 2 in February, I don't know. Because obviously, Fear is going on its break as well. But like I said, I don't know like how much connectivity. Like this feels like more so like a movie thing, maybe. So, kind of ending on a bittersweet note in some regards, but also a very hopeful note, but also a very intriguing, like, what's going on mystery note. So, once again, I'm not well versed in the comics, so I didn't even know there was. I wonder, is that something they're doing just for the adaptation of like TVs and movies? Or was there something in the comics being like, no, there is a definitive answer? Because the last time we really touched on like a cure to all of this was like Eugene, but once again, that was complete and utter like BS on his part. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where everything takes us going forward in the Walking Dead universe. Like, when will be the next time we see these characters? Under what circumstances? You know, how much of their story will have passed? Will it have been years? Will it just been a little bit of time? Like I said, if the timetables are to be accepted as they are, this shows at least 2 years behind the Walking Dead continuity, maybe a little bit more. But either way, I think this has been like a very fun, hope-filled show that, like I said, it's just interesting to see so many elements come full circle while also pulling everyone in different directions, on different journeys of their own, all working towards the same goal. And like I said, it's very much like I say my response about the Arrowverse stuff. Yeah, things might be ending, but as long as the Arrowverse, for however long the Arrowverse runs, we could always have certain things pulled up continuity-wise. Obviously, that's pretty apparent with the Flash with its current Armageddon event. It was a prime example of that. But also, like, in this universe, you know, it's like, even if even if this is ending, there's still 2 more parts to the final season of The Walking Dead. There's still the Fear Walking Dead. There's still the movies that, once again, I still haven't really looked too much into the updates about those, because I'm pretty sure they're still happening. But I think, you know, from the very beginning, this was meant to be a limited series, only 2 seasons, and it's been quite a ride. Like I said, a lot of tears, a lot of fun, a lot of heartache along the way. But like I said, I'm interested that just because this chapter closes, leads to many doors that can open at later points in time. It's going to be quite interesting to see how these surprises manifest themselves going forward in whatever shape or form we get them. But to everyone associated with this, whether we are able to see them in the future or not, for the stories that continue on, for the stories that ended here, but their endings push on other people's stories, you know? Like Elizabeth, you know, being locked up and, you know, dealing with like her daughter's death and everything and no longer believing 100% in the CRM's mission, stuff like that. So, to everyone associated, you know, I wish them the best of luck in their future endeavors. And like I said, I'm excited to see where The Walking Dead as a whole takes us going forward from here. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.